This is Katie here with Chef Wild, and I am going to be making some barbecue sauce today. So I'm actually out in the trees. I would typically make barbecue sauce at home, but I had some time today, so I figured I'd do this at camp. And so yeah, I'm going to go through a quick run through here of all the stuff that I brought. I have a lot of stuff. I'm not maybe going to use it all, but I just figured it'd be better to have it than not. So I'll flip this around so you guys can see what I've got. So down here on the tailgate, I got ketchup, some mustard, some garlic, got a little bit of cumin here, a little bit of chili powder. I diced up some onions before I started filming. And then up here on the tote, we got some brown sugar, a little bit of Tabasco sauce, some kosher salt, some lots of pepper, a little bit of vegetable oil, some molasses, honey, a little bit of liquid smoke, red wine vinegar, and some Worcestershire sauce. For the vinegar, you could substitute anything in there really for vinegar. You could just use plain white vinegar, even apple cider vinegar. And then I've got a can here of crushed pineapple, mostly because I couldn't find just a single can of pineapple juice. But the crushed pineapple will be good in there too, if we end up going that route. So, I'm gonna get things turned around here and get mixing. Okay, so I finally got the propane burner lit, and I'm gonna start off with just a little bit of olive oil in my pot. I've had it on there for maybe like a minute or two, just getting warmed up. And I'm also solo filming, so hopefully you guys can see and hear everything I'm doing. So I'm just gonna put maybe like a tablespoon or two of olive oil in here. And I'd recommend using olive oil in the starter here, where we're gonna cook up our onions and our garlic, just because it might last a little bit longer in the actual sauce if you make more and you want to store it or save it, because we will probably not eat this much barbecue sauce today, so you can save it. And the vegetable oil will probably last longer than like butter, or even yeah, I guess butter would be the only other option. Okay, so I got my pot here. My onions are in there, hopefully getting warm. I'm going to cook these until maybe they start to get, you know, just a little bit soft, kind of translucent. And then when those get cooked down a little bit, I'm going to add in probably about a tablespoon or so of garlic and let that kind of marry together. Okay, and then also, just so you guys know where I'm drawing my ingredients from and my amounts, I did a little bit of Googling. I've made barbecue sauce before, just a really simple basic one, but I kind of wanted to just see what else was out there for like flavor profiles, I guess. So I actually wrote down a couple different recipes, and I'm not following one recipe. I'm actually just kind of going to use the basic ingredients that you kind of form the base of my barbecue sauce, and then kind of add from there just based on what we kind of like to eat. So yeah, so I'll just kind of fill you in as we go here. So like I said, I'm going to use probably about a tablespoon of garlic in here, and I'll go ahead and throw that in. So, and you know, like fairly heaping, and just right in there. The other thing too is you might notice that I had a pretty like rough chop on my onions. If you go to the store and you buy barbecue sauce, it's not going to be chunky. I personally don't really mind a little bit more of a texture to my barbecue sauce, especially because we're going to be putting it on these corned deer sandwiches. And I also kind of like the texture. It makes it a little bit more of like you can tell it's homemade, more of a homemade sense there. So, all right, so I got the garlic in there. I'm gonna stir this up. And let's see, I'm probably gonna put in about a teaspoon and a half roughly of kosher salt, and this is really coarse kosher salt, so if you have finer you could even maybe go a little bit more, but this will go a long way. And then for pepper, we also buy this coarse ground pepper from Costco because we go through a lot of pepper. And this I'll probably just do a teaspoon of because it's pretty coarse. So I got that in there. And then I've got some cumin and some chili powder, and I think for now I'm going to start with just a little bit of chili powder. And I'll probably do about a teaspoon of this. And it is so windy out here, so I'm going to just... See, this is the little bit heaping, not too bad. And that just goes right in there. So right now I've got my onions, my garlic, and the dry spices that I'm starting with in the pot. And I'll get you guys around on that. Alright, so those are looking like they're coming together. I'll give it another minute or two and then I'll go ahead and start adding in all of the sauce base ingredients and then our extra flavors. Alright, so brown sugar. I'm going to do about a half a cup to start with. You can always add more. Okay, so they're back. Brian's leaking oil. And so this is no longer a solo barbecue sauce session. Okay, so I just put my brown sugar in there. I'm adding this whole can of crushed pineapple and the juice right into the pot. You really like pineapple. Okay, so I'm going to start with probably about a cup of ketchup, whatever you have. You can also make your own ketchup. I've read a lot of recipes that say to look for ketchup that has the least amount of ingredients, so as pure as it gets. This is what we had in the fridge, so this is what we're using. So I'll get this turned around so you can see what's happening. I got my pineapples, brown sugar, ketchup, and the seasonings we started with all in here. I'm going to give this a good stir. And it's going to look a little thin at first, but the longer you cook it, it'll reduce more.
That smells good. That is some good smelling barbecue sauce.
Yeah. Okay, we're back. This is kind of starting to simmer in the pot, which is what you want. I'm going to add in a little bit of honey, just maybe like a squeeze or two, not a lot. Maybe roughly like half of a quarter of a cup, so like an eighth of a cup. And that's coming together good. So next I'm going to add in our red wine vinegar. And like I mentioned a couple times, apple cider vinegar would probably be my next choice. And if you absolutely don't have either of those, just use regular vinegar. 3 tablespoons. Okay, so next we'll add in our Worcestershire sauce. Again, another substitute for this is steak sauce if you don't have it. And with this, I'm going to start a little less, and I would recommend actually, whenever you're cooking, if you're not sure how much of it you want, like if it's a flavor you're adding, go a little bit less because you can always add more. Especially if it's the first time you're ever making a recipe, go a little less. And just kind of taste test it. So, again, I'm using my 1/3 cup here. I'm not going to use a full 1/3 cup, maybe half of that. It's starting to smell like barbecue sauce. So next I'm going to add in a couple dashes of liquid smoke, just a little bit. Any brand will do. This is one of like 5 bottles that we have because we use this stuff sometimes a lot. And with this, a little goes a long way. Like, I'm talking a teaspoon into this batch that I'm making. Okay. So, what haven't we added yet? I see a little bit of molasses, but again, that's going to be kind of a sweetener, although it will make it a little darker and a little bit thicker and maybe give it a little bit more of a richer flavor. But I think for now, I'm just going to add in a little bit of mustard. Oh. Typical. So, a couple good dashes just to start with. I maybe got like a tablespoon and a half to 2 in there. I'm going to give that a little stir. Everything's starting to simmer now. And I also brought some Tabasco for just an extra little kick. Again, if you don't want any more spice, just stop at the chili powder or don't add any spice. I'm just going to put a couple little dashes in there. Okay, we're going to give this a little sample here. Just a little dash. It's good, a little sweet, so I'm going to probably add a little bit more vinegar and a little bit more mustard just to kind of cut the sweetness a little bit. I don't want it to be overpowering with sweet. Alright, I'll show you what this is starting to look like here. So I've just had it kind of simmering. Okay, so a little more mustard. I did maybe 2 tablespoons before. I'm probably going to go all the way up to whatever would make a quarter of a cup. That's looking good. And then I'm just going to dash in a little more vinegar, this red wine vinegar here. Okay, so that's maybe 2 or 3 more tablespoons of that. Let's give this another whirl. See if it's better. Definitely more vinegary. Still a little sweet, but not bad. Okay, so I think the sauce is there. While it was simmering, I ended up adding maybe 2 tablespoons of molasses, and I think that topped it off, made it perfect. So I'm just going to let it simmer for maybe another 10 minutes just to get to a good thickness. If you like yours a little thinner, you can go less. If you like it thicker, go a little longer. It just really depends on what you like. Again, I'm not straining this because I don't mind the chunks of onion and the pineapple in there. If you don't like the chunks, you can strain it. But it should be good. So I'll get you guys an up close here on what this looks like. So there we have it.